Yeah, it's fine.
All right. We are, truth be told, I'm Tony Sweet and Captain Ron. We are in studio with one of our amazing guests, and it's going to be at the Contact in the Desert. And Yvonne Smith is a hypnotherapist.
A little hyper today.
Yeah, she's a she's a hypnotherapist that has been working with alien abductions since 1990, the year I was born. She also manages and investigates support groups for abductees, which she founded called the Close Encounter Research Organization. She has authored several books on the subject, including her latest one, Chosen, which is Captain Ron holding her up right now. And so we have the one and only in studio, one of the main speakers at Contact in the Desert, Yvonne Smith. Yay!
Thank you so much for having me.
We had you on last time was at Contact in the Desert 2018.
Yes, I remember. And it's so, the schedule is so tight at the conferences that I was able to get that time with you. So.
This is nice now. We can actually sit down in the studio.
I know. In studio here in Burbank, California, and you're just right down the street from where we record.
Perfect.
So it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you.
We want to jump in because we have such a short time with you. I mean, because we could talk to you for about 6 hours, but we're going to try to keep it to 1. You've been working with abductees, and you learned about this subject from truly the 3 giants in this world. Dr. Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, and John Mack. Arguably, almost not arguably, those are the 3 biggest, best-known alien abduction researchers. They're certainly part of why I'm involved in this. The book Abduction, John Mack's thing, brought a lot of credibility to this. So it's really incredible that you come from that, what would you say, lineage or whatever. You came trained from them. Did you, when you're doing your hypnotic regressions, do you find that the same things that they found? Are you finding a consistent experience?
Oh, yes. That's when I knew that I was on the right track with my research back when I started. In 91, I opened my practice, and I had the honor, really, when I think back at it, to travel with John Mack, Bud Hopkins, David Jacobs.
Can you imagine, Tony, how great?
John Carpenter.
God.
So the fun part of the conferences, as you probably both know, is we all get together afterwards and sit down and have a drink and talk about
no doubt
cases. Well, I had the opportunity to sit down with these giants, people I respected, and say, have you ever had this in your cases? And the first one I remember was this person was describing a tall being with a Dracula-type cape. And I, of course, me being a rookie, I had not heard of that yet. And I thought, oh, my God, this is craziness. So I sat down with them, with my colleagues, and, John Mack, yeah, all the time. And here, so now I'm open to anything because we still don't know. We're still researching, and I mean, the aliens are not giving me answers. So I learned from them not to disregard something because it sounds too crazy.
Well, this is what I want to get to right here. This very opening part that I have here is I want to get to. So, are you finding the same results? Are the same stories
I am.
that abductees are telling? So then, if you take it back your 20 years, and then these guys have been doing it for 30 years, we're talking about 50 years of researching alien abduction, and you're hearing the same consistent stories.
Absolutely.
My question to you: does that strengthen this phenomenon? Like, okay, everybody's seeing the same thing, or does it weaken it? Like maybe it's something else. Because, for example, I thought of like ayahuasca. For example, people that take ayahuasca experience the same beings. So could this be something else is my question.
When I've been doing this now for 28 years, and I feel it's the similarities that run through each case, and not just what they talk about, but the emotions that come through when they're describing, because they're reliving the experience in regression. So for me, it strengthens the case for physical abduction. People are actually being taken from their normal environments. Believe me, I don't think I would have dedicated 28 years in changing my entire life to something that I thought, this can't be.
So regardless what the alien thing actually is, you're saying that you're convinced that people are being taken by some alien, whatever that may be,
Yes.
physically out of their house,
Yes.
onto a ship, that whole thing that we know about.
I
Wow.
am convinced of that because there are so many cases that I have, and not just myself, but we talked about my colleagues through the years. We've discussed cases of this starts in childhood. So say a child is missing. I've had several cases, hundreds of cases of this. The parents can't find him in the house. And then they run around the house. And then all of a sudden I had one little boy that was found in the cabinet in the kitchen.
Wow.
And one little boy was found, I think, in the kitchen and had wet his pants.
Yeah, but a skeptic would say, well, the boy was running around playing and hid in the kitchen.
But
It doesn't mean an alien put him
But
there.
the parents would have. The parents would have.
Oh, you're
found
saying
him.
it wasn't there, and then he appeared there.
Right.
I see.
They looked and looked and looked in the same places, and the house. It wasn't like these people were living in mansions. Maybe a 900 square foot home.
Wow, that's pretty.
And
yeah.
they couldn't find him. So, it's not just one or two cases, but I've had hundreds of cases. And then the fact that people are taken together. People see something strange in the sky. They're driving down a highway.
Things I like are when people are returned and they have like somebody else's shoes on, because supposedly the abductees were together and they grabbed the wrong shoes
That's
or the
happened,
wrong
or they
shirt.
have the wrong nightgown on, or inside
See,
out.
that's some physical evidence, actually.
Well,
right?
I want to ask this because it's just like the reality shows, and I'm not saying that this is the case. And I'm going to give an example of my grandfather. When my grandfather in the early or late '60s, he passed away, saw the light, all that stuff. This is before there was any TV shows,
Right.
a lot of books, whatever. But now that it's on television, there's thousands of books. Have you noticed an increase in abductions and seen an increase because people now know what to say, what to do, maybe dream about things that they've read?
Right, you and I could say, I got abducted, I could tell you what happened,
Right.
even though I've never had an experience.
Have you noticed an increase? Because, 50, 40, 30 years ago, we didn't have
No,
the
we
books
didn't.
and the TV shows. Have you seen an increase of abductions maybe because of what they've read or seen?
I've had an increase maybe this last year, and especially this new year, in new people coming to me wanting to know, did something happen?
Right.
But still, because these experiences begin in childhood, we go back to when they were maybe 5 or 6 years old. So it's not like all of a sudden they've been abducted.
That's an excellent point. Kids aren't going to know that unless
Right.
at 4.
Right.
No, and they don't know. They'll say, a little doctor came in my room,
Right,
or
see?
a ghost came in my room, or
See, that one I would be like, okay. Yeah,
right,
I see that.
my own son, my youngest son, had experiences. Oh my gosh, running rampant at 4 or 5 years old, and I can say this because
Your son had that?
because he's already come out and talked about it. He's in his 30s now, and because of my personal experiences with my son, when parents come to me, I know exactly how they feel and exactly what happens. My youngest son, used to tell me there was a spider, a giant spider in his room in the corner that would talk to him.
Now, see, that sounds like something a kid would say, and skeptics will say to me, well, kids say that. I saw the shadow man,
your
or I
imaginary
saw...
imaginary
Or they'll say
friend.
that the uncle that came, or the doctor that came in my room was my uncle
Yeah.
playing with me or whatever.
But I know that there was no sexual abuse in our home,
Right.
And so parents are coming to me now because their own children are starting to talk about something strange, and they're thinking, I better deal with my experiences, because they're able to put it on the back burner. It was too strange. I have to live my life, as we all do, I mean, even if a ship lands out here in Burbank, we still have to pay our taxes and
Yeah.
pay our bills.
Right.
It's-
Well, you're echoing what everybody says, is that it goes in the family.
Yeah.
It goes through your life, and it goes generational.
Yep.
So what's the most generations that you have heard have been abducted?
It's, the parents, maybe one or both, and then their parents, it's because it runs intergenerational. I can't off the top of my head. I don't know if it's their parents, but
I think so. I think Jacob said it was in 1800s. He was able to go back
well, he
to.
was able. Yeah, I have not been able to trace it back that far, but I already know that when someone comes to see me or a couple comes to see me, I'll be interviewing their family members or their children. So
crazy.
it's it's ongoing. The abductions don't stop. They might remain dormant for a little while, a year, maybe more, but something else will happen. And what I tell people, I have people in the 70s, their 70s and almost 80 go, what do they want with me now? And I tell them once you're chosen to be in their program, they'll have something for you to do.
It's interesting how this, for the last 50 years, has, as we've talked about, it seems to be the same thing. It's the same things repeated. It's same generational. It's the same sort of experience. However, there are two front-running schools of thought as to what the experience is as far as the following. One school of thought is that the aliens, Jacobs is certainly behind this one, where it is the aliens are here for their own purposeful clandestine mission. They don't care about you. They don't care to tell you why they're here. They're like us when we go to pick out an ant farm. We pick these 4 ants up, put a number on their back, put them back. We don't stop and tell the queen what's going on. We just do it. That's one school. The other school of thought is that they don't even like abductee. They say contactee, and they think it's full of love, and they're here to help us and save the earth. These are two very diametrically opposed positions. What are you seeing? Are you seeing both of those, or do you see one stronger than the other?
I'm seeing both.
Wasn't that weird how it's so opposing?
When a person starts realizing something happened to them, but they don't know what, and they go through, because they come to me as a hypnotherapist because they're suffering from PTSD symptoms. So my job is to relieve them from those symptoms. But once that fear and anger and whatever they're going through begins to dissipate, then it seems like they're able to get more communication from these beings when they're taken. But it's many experiencers say that they can't interfere with us, like they're not going to swoop down and save us from ourselves, but they have been told, and I'm sure you both have heard this, that we are not taking care of our planet. This has been happening for a long time. We're going to suffer the consequences if we don't change. And I've been hearing this over and over again. In my lecture series, I show pictures of devastation that are shown to the abductees, and then pictures that are absolutely beautiful, saying we can turn this around. But I wrote about this in my new book. I called it The Urgency. For the last 5 years, I've been hearing something is, ratcheting up. Something is coming down the pike. And people that are wanting to know what happened to them, they're feeling this anxiety, like, I'm supposed to do something, but I don't know what it is. I'm not happy with my current position.
This is the big question I have for you. You just hit the nail on the head. Okay, right there. So this has been going on for 4 or 5 years. You say that.
From what I've been hearing, people coming to me.
You've been doing it for 28, but in the last 4 or 5, you see a sense of urgency.
Yes.
People saying the phrase like, I feel like there's something I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do. I've heard that going back to the 50s. The first abductees were saying that in the 50s.
The contactees, I think they were called at
Correct.
that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then secondly, this sounds to me like a Manchurian candidate sort of a thing, Tony, that like they just feel like, like they're going to hear a buzz and start shooting people or whatever,
Well, I hate to even think about it in those terms, but I can understand what you're saying.
It does sound like that, doesn't it?
The abductees are saying, when I've had them, I mean, this is hundreds of cases that I've had, they'll say that they're told, when the time comes, you will know what to do. And they have had recurring dreams of leading crowds, huge crowds of people somewhere. Like they're leading them, bringing them somewhere. But they don't know where. They can't remember where. They can't remember what they're doing. But they've been told that we will know when the time comes. Now, well, I'm hoping it's not like a maturing candidate type of
Right.
situation.
I hope not.
I hope not either.
It feels that way, though.
But I feel an urgency, and I have been feeling it for the last couple of years. I've been trying to set these training sessions up to train other therapists that want to do my kind of work, because I've been approached at many of these conferences. So I'm feeling, we need people throughout the United States that knows how to work with abductees. So this is the year
It's a dying breed.
I
right
have to
there.
try to set it up, and once and
should.
for all, maybe with the live
Yeah.
streaming, because people have to fly in or drive in. So
Right.
the ones that can come, I'll do it live, but then we'll have the live stream. I mean,
I know a
I'm
studio in
just-
the Burbank area that's available for you.
that would be great. I'm thinking out loud, and I'm sorry, but it just that's my urgency right now because, my colleagues, I mean, they're gone. David Jacobs is getting up there in years. I'm getting up there in years. I'm not going to be able to do this
You're a
forever.
youngin'.
I mean, yeah, well, when,
But there's nobody filling the pipeline.
Right. And
That's-
I've
yeah.
noticed that too. There, if you go to these conferences, the leading experts are older people.
Much older guys.
And but what I was going to ask you on the abductees, if they're trying to save the planet, why don't they abduct somebody that actually has clout? Why don't they abduct a president or a senator or people that, I mean, if they can just go into anybody's house
Or a
and-
big polluter.
or a big polluter
yeah, and not
to
bring
change-
them back.
The head of the oil company. Why
Not-
wouldn't
yeah.
they do that? That's
But
a great question.
Well,
Tony.
that's the thing is, they may have. Because nobody is immune to this
true.
experience.
That's true.
They may
We don't
have.
know that.
And began and starts planting these seeds in
Right.
these people, because we're hearing it now about climate change. We're hearing about pollution. You know,
Right.
and I'm watching the news and I'm thinking, oh
Right.
my God, what's going to happen? I mean, we need, politicians in office that know that climate change is reality. I mean, it's happening. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, we just don't know who's been abducted because
Because some people, especially when you get into office, to say, "Oh, I've been abducted," pretty much might ruin your
right.
career.
Well,
Tony,
they
that's so
did.
brilliant because you could almost make
Excuse
the
me.
argument that they got to Gore
Right? Because
or someone like that.
'cause,
You know, you could
that's
speculate.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And believe me, they don't care whether you're famous, not famous, rich, poor. I mean, they do not discriminate.
Right.
It's people just across the board. I've worked, because I'm in the Burbank area, I've worked with actors who want to know more, but some of them have come forward to say that they've had abduction experiences, but I wish more would, because it seems like, okay, if a celebrity comes out
Yeah.
and says it, like doing a commercial,
Right.
I
then
do
people
feel
are
like
gonna
that
believe.
wall's slightly coming down
do
with
too.
with the new Pentagon things coming out,
Yeah.
and the media
Oh.
no longer laughs as hard. They kind of
Right.
cover the story instead of ridicule the story.
Well, and it's about time. But that really, when was it, December 16th? Was it last year? I think is when that what did they call it? The Tic
Tic
Tac
Tac.
came out,
Right.
And it was on all the big, Washington Post and New York Times. I mean, it was like, I was with my support group. I said, haven't we been telling these people this? And it's about time that it's reported without that tongue in cheek and
there was none
laugh,
for that
yeah.
story.
Oh, of course not, because
Right.
who was
The
covering
Pentagon, yeah.
it? So
Well, let me ask you this. Tony brought up a really great point there. Let me ask you this, though. I think, Jimmy and I talked about this, that this is going back to back in the 50s. These abductees were saying the same thing about get ready, something's coming, you need to be ready to do your thing. It feels to me like why would the aliens, who obviously know what they're doing, waste time telling some old guy, get ready, we're going to need you soon, and then they're dying off? That was 50 years ago.
yeah, I mean,
So these people are gone. That to me weakens the argument for this phenomenon, because it's like, why would they even do that? And then people are dying out. You think you would tell all the young people this and then do it?
well, they are now. I mean, we got the millennials that I'm working with now. Back in the 50s, who was it, Adamski and others? I mean, they were claiming to go get rides on spaceships and seeing these big-breasted women in Venus. And I mean, when you really read the accounts of this,
Calm
you
down,
think,
Doctor Captain.
but you know what I'm saying? It's we're not saying that now. People aren't claiming to, to be taken on these joyous rides, but people that are being abducted now or are coming, I'll say, being awakened, are the ones that, I mean, they're young. You know, the millennials coming up, and of course I have, you know, from young teenagers to, you know, 70, 80-year-old people. But if something's going to be coming, and I don't know, I mean,
See, we don't know their time frame either. 4 to
don't.
5 years to them. 4 or 5 years, get ready. That could be, you know,
see-
they could mean get ready for in the next 100 years.
Well, that's somebody made a good point
Yeah.
is in the chat room about Jesus. You know, they've said for over 2,000 years that he's coming back.
right. That's a great point.
And, you know, I mean, to them, time may be nothing. To us, you know, it's, you know, 40, 50, 60, 100 years is a lot of time to us. So to them, that could be 1,000 years from now.
yeah, according to them, there is no time. You know, like
So-
we judge and measure time.
Right.
They don't. So you guys have a point there. And of course, they're not giving me any answers as far as their timeline, you know.
Yeah.
And that always, I know that I'm getting off a little off subject, but like even Jesus, I'm wondering if Jesus actually was an abducted person because he disappeared.
Well, they say he
They
could.
keep saying
There
he's
are
coming
people that
back.
claim he's an alien because
So-
he's off planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's going to
So
come back and he
that's
re-rose and all that. No,
That's another show.
It's
but
another
I
whole
mean,
show, but
still.
she lives close. We'll bring her
Yeah,
back.
bring her back and talk about that.
We won't put the cameras on for that show, but we'll,
Okay.
Right.
Good.
let me ask you this. What do you think is happening to these people? Do you think, in fact, for sure it's an alien experience? And if so, what do you think that is? I mean, in other words, do you think they're coming physically on a nuts and bolts ship? Because the new thing Tony and I keep hearing is really stronger that it's interplanetary. Or, excuse me, interdimensional
Interdimensional.
as opposed to planetary. What do you
it
think?
It can be. Yeah, it can be all of the above. I've heard all
I know,
that
but these
too.
are these are hard answers. When I give that to somebody that's a skeptic, they're like, "Oh, it could be everything." Well,
No,
then
no,
they're
I
like,
know. But
you know,
I mean,
well, thanks.
Because they can slip in and out. People say they'll see the ship and then all of a sudden it's gone, and people they'll come through walls, you know, through your walls coming in your home. I mean, so it could be interdimensional. I feel that they do have physical ships because people have been taken on these ships and they describe the interior.
And do they all say the same thing or similar?
It's very similar,
Very similar.
of being escorted down the hallway, and you know, and I'll ask them, you know, how does the floor feel? If you know, some of them will say, well, I'm not really walking, but some will, you know, I mean, just to try to get as much detailed
Yeah.
information, but it's very similar.
See, that's what I think. To me, that substantiates it to some degree. I like to hear the same story because then maybe it's more likely to have occurred.
Have you heard? I mean, there's a lot of this similar stories, but have you heard a few, let's say, 50 stories that are very unique, but they're similar to people from different parts of the world, different parts of the country? That, you know, other than she's being taken, is there anything that's unique, but still you get to hear often?
Gosh. I mean, it seems like the stories, the experiences are the same all over the world, because when I've traveled and lectured, people who, in countries that don't speak English, something resonated with my lectures, you know, with the slides that I
Right.
show. They're receiving strange scars and marks overnight. I showed the triangles that come up on people. That seemed to resonate quite a bit with people in Brazil.
Like the branding that you got on your behind,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
won't.
Oh, we
won't.
won't.
We won't. We're not. That's another show.
That's
again.
another show, okay.
Another show. We got a couple shows in the
Which
pipeline.
enticed Captain Ron to get one, a matching one. I was kidding.
What did I get myself into?
I know, right?
So sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm trying to think of something that
It's okay. I didn't know if there was like, because there's a lot, 100% of the time, there's always a topic that people have experienced, right? Pretty much 100% of the time. Like if 100% of the time that they've been probed, 100% of the time that they were taken.
He's talking about consistencies in the stories.
Consistency.
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, and I really feel that after all these years, I did say this back in the day, like in the 90s, because I didn't have enough under my belt, cases to work with. But I feel that the hybridization program is central
Really?
to what these alien beings are doing.
Jacobs is hell bent that that's the answer.
Have you noticed people that come back, like near-death experiences? A lot of people come back, and they're intuitive where they were not before. Now, have you seen a lot of abductees become intuitive?
Oh yes, and again, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Were they already? I think
Just
we're all
enhanced?
psychic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And not all of us tune into that, but definitely they'll come back with their psychic abilities being enhanced. Some of them have become healers when they were in the corporate world, and all of a sudden they're opening a practice of hands-on healing and psychic readings. I mean, it changes your life. You experience something like this, it just changes your life.
It would have to.
It just
I mean,
has
my
to.
God.
I mean, I'm not the same person I was before I started this.
I think the two strongest. I've always tried to get to the strongest evidence we have for these things, and abduction. Most of the topics we talk about, I'm very skeptical of. There are a few things that I'm not. The alien abduction thing, I'm very open to this, and the strongest things that I have found are both communion and John Mack's abduction. In abduction, when he went to Africa, and there's a bunch of, I don't know how they were, 8.
Yeah.
And all these kids tell that story. These kids didn't see E.T. These kids didn't know that.
Right.
And they speak a different language, and they live there, and he's interviewing them, and that's what they're all telling. They're all drawing. Boy, that's compelling. How'd you get 28-year-olds to stick to a lie for 30 years?
Right.
I mean, you can't.
Right.
You can't.
That is
no.
compelling. And I think in the mainstream world, I do think there's not enough credibility given to the abductees.
Right.
Some of these are really strong cases. I know there's some wacko people out there. But something like that, why isn't that given more credence?
Well, that's why, I'm doing what I'm doing, and my colleagues as well, before, with Bud and John Mack. I mean, we have to keep talking about this. We have to keep this alive in the media. And now we've got some of the mainstream media after that Tic Tac came out, on what the Pentagon brought it out and so forth. Okay, we're making some strides, but we have to. This is such a huge story. I mean, once it really breaks and people start realizing these people aren't making this up, these people aren't crazy. If they knew the caliber of people being abducted. I mean, I've had, lawyers and
I couldn't agree
MDs
more.
and,
Even like the people I mentioned that John Mack interviewed. Absolutely. Tony and I have a problem, though. Here's what it is. I think now it has become, so many people have seen these stories and seen these movies that it's all that we bring these people in, and there isn't anything really new in the abduction phenomenon. Yeah, we know the guy comes in the room, he takes you up to the ship, they bring you back, they took your eggs. Well, we've been hearing that for 20 years now. And people, I think, are kind of like numb to it. Like, yeah, I've heard that, but what else you got? Like, there's nothing new. That I think hurts this.
But I mean, it's like we're not going to make something up to sensationalize this. Right. I mean, it's already sensational, and that's why back in the day when I did a lot of talk shows, I didn't mention the hybridization because that is so sensational to talk about this, and you only have an hour show on television,
scary.
and the people are left hanging, and then I'm going to sound like a lunatic. So it's like, what is she talking about? But that's the thing is we're not, there are, as you mentioned, there's some, strange people that want the attention.
He's right there.
I'm in the room.
We won't talk about
I'm
it.
in the room. Thank you.
You're in the room. But
he's got the headphones.
Where they feel they have to elaborate on their story because it's, I've got to add something to this. Well, then that hurts the people who are really legitimate. I don't like the people that want to be gurus and they want to have this following, and then try to make money off of it. You get into the UFO field, it's not for the money, believe me. It's for passion, for the truth, and passion to help people and to bring this out out in the open. I just hope this happens more in my lifetime, and we get more, Pentagon coming forward and more New York Times, and
Right.
let's be on CNN.
But again, I think the abductees are sold short. I don't think they get. You rarely see stories like that in mainstream, that this guy got abducted or that guy got abducted. That's not even.
Because they don't want to cover it.
They don't want to cover it, and it's it's old hat. And when I talk to my friends about this, like, yeah, I've heard that. Do you have something different?
I mean, what? Why do you want something different? To me, it solidifies the fact that people who don't know each other and around the world are talking about the same experience. Emotions are this. I mean, I get to work with them one-on-one, so I see the emotions from person to person.
I mean, you have to think about this. Look at our cell phones. I mean, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't even have these things. And when they did come out, they were flip phones that you couldn't get on the internet. Now, with the generation, we can do everything with this. Everything, you could talk to anybody all over the world. And we go, and when the next version comes out, they're like, oh, is that all? So,
Right.
I mean, so really,
That's
it's
a great
not, I
point.
don't think it's the topic that's getting sensationalized. I think it's just human beings are becoming so overwhelmed with technology and everything at their fingertips. I just think everything else is within UFO. Oh, I've heard that. Well, it's amazing to think a UFO, aliens come down, take these people to their ship or wherever they take them, probe them or, test them. So that's amazing. It's fascinating because when it is proven, meaning they do come down, what's it going to take to surprise people nowadays?
Well,
that's really
brilliant.
That's
great.
That's the thing, and I totally agree. I mean, I think people, we're in that society of what is that, instant gratification. I want it
Instant.
right now. Like you say, what's
instant.
next and what's new. Technology, my God, from year to year, we've got to
it's
change our
amazing.
phones and computers and.
Well,
so,
even this story you just talked about, Yvonne, in December, we had the Pentagon admitting we spent $22 million chasing UFO. Here's a video of us doing it. Well, people like Brother Church were going crazy. Oh, my God, it's disclosure. And then people on the street are like, oh yeah, I saw that. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's already gone.
30
Nobody's
years,
talking
30
about that.
years
That's
ago,
gone.
That would have been like
Oh, my
the
God.
headline news
For every day.
Look back when War of the Worlds, just
Yeah.
on
Oh,
radio.
yeah, the radio show.
It was a radio, gig that or a stunt that shocked the world, or at least in America. And so, I mean, you wouldn't even
Brilliant.
you wouldn't even get nothing now.
But I
You
think,
would
We got nothing.
You would turn it. You would turn the nut. That's weird. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think people are so into their little comfortable boxes. They know, when for the football schedule, they know all these other things are in and out of work, and what are they going to do on weekends? And it's like, I wish they knew there's so much more to life.
When you read these stories about these abductees, I mean, it's heart-wrenching to think how this has destroyed their lives. I don't know how I would never be able to handle it. I am not
Yeah,
able.
you can, because you'd be coming to me.
that's right.
But I mean, that your whole worldview changes overnight.
It
And
has
everything is when you feel like you can't talk about it. I mean, what an isolating, horrible, it's like rape almost. It's like an invasion.
And it affects relationships,
Yeah.
marriages. I mean, except for Jacobs, all of us got divorced. It is still affecting relationships because it's something that unless you experience it, the person can't.
How could you explain that to somebody?
You can't relate to
You
it.
could never understand that. There's no way.
Now, I just did a documentary that's going to be out in June on streaming, Google and Amazon and all those. I don't stream, so I'm still back in the old day. But it's going to be released probably on
Amazon
DVD at some
Prime
point. But this is when you see it. Some of my support group members were in it, and I sat there during the screening, and I was almost in tears because you just you're listening to them. Of course, I listen to people all the time, but I saw them on the screen and how much it has affected their lives and their children.
I feel like a lot of these things, like the serious stuff that Dr. Stephen Greer did, those movies. You know, these make a blurb, and then they go away, and then people in this community use that as their platform, just like this Tic Tac, UFO, all these things. It's almost like people have already made up their mind. Like either you're with Trump or against him, same kind of thing. It's like, well, I don't believe in that. And no matter what these stories come out or what we say, yeah, I saw the movie, yeah. That's the response that I get a lot of. Well, didn't you see that movie? Yeah, I did. Did you hear what that guy said? I heard him.
That's unbelievable to me. It's just unbelievable
Well, you're
to me.
really immersed in this. I'm sort of on the edge.
Oh, it's changed my life. I mean, this is
Don't you run into people that don't believe it?
all the time.
Okay, well, there you go.
And
Well,
that's why when I'm on a flight to go to a conference or something, especially on a long flight, I don't tell anybody what I do.
Right.
Because I made that mistake one time. 5 hours of, he was like, felt like I was being interviewed the whole 5 hours. And at least he bought me a couple drinks. But that was, but it's, I get, if people want to challenge me, about this, and I hear the same questions
Sure.
and their theories and all, I'm getting numb to it.
Right.
It's like, oh my God.
Right.
But we're past that, are there UFOs? We're past
Well, you
that.
are.
Are we alone?
But I think other people aren't.
But really, have they really looked
no.
in our, that's the problem.
That is the problem.
They haven't taken the time to get out of that box that they're in and see what
I
really
couldn't
is
agree more.
out
I think
there.
if you read the book Abduction, it'll really open your or Communion. These things really changed
Or
my
Chosen.
view on that. Or better yet,
Or
Chosen.
chosen.
Tony, let's bring this up. It's similar to what she's saying, I guess in contradiction to what you're saying. Tony and I, how often have we said this, Tony, how we will do the same thing. We'll be at a conference, or not even a conference, not a UFO thing. We'll be out somewhere, and then somebody will say, what do you guys do? Well, we have this podcast radio show. Well, what's it about? Well, here we go. We don't even want to start this thing. Well, we talk about all this kind of paranormal things and aliens and UFOs. Oh, yeah, that's not for me. I don't go for that. I don't care. And then inevitably, this is what happens, though. There was this one time, and they got a story, and they saw a UFO, or my cousin said that he had this thing come in the room. It's like nobody believes in it, and they're not interested in it. But you know what? There was this one.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's when you give them a permission to talk about it.
Right.
This is so widespread that I tell people, look down your neighborhood, down your street. Say there's 100 houses on the street. So two neighbors out of those 100 houses are abductees.
Claim to be abductees. That's correct.
Exactly. I mean, it is. I go to the grocery store. I go to the bank. I was opening up a new bank account when I wrote my other book, Coronado, and he goes, "What's the book about?" So, so I
Sit
told
down.
him about mass abduction and all this. And he goes, "You know what?" And he whispers. He goes, "I saw one. I was out on my balcony." And he said it was coming towards him. He thought it was a plane that was going to crash. And he goes, I never told anybody that. His wife and his baby were asleep, and he just went out there, at midnight. And when you really, that's amazing. And I'm glad that happens, because when people stop and think, God, maybe that's what my little son was talking about.
Now, you
Or
live in
maybe
LA,
that's
and you
it.
say 2 out of 100 people on your street have that. This is a worldwide phenomenon.
Well, this is in America. That's the Roper poll, right?
Okay.
2 out of was it? Oh, what was
2%, right?
2% of the American population. So I'm just talking about.
Okay, so let's say
US.
worldwide, it's what, 1%?
Yeah, I mean, this is worldwide.
That's 700 million people.
So when you
or
go-
70 million.
When I just went to Switzerland last year, and in Brazil and other countries, my God, people are talking about this. They're talking in a different language, but they're all saying the same thing.
But certain cultures, it's very open conversation.
I thought that, but in traveling, it doesn't seem to be. Well, UFOs, but not abduction.
Yes,
abduction,
yes.
they're a
UFOs,
little
I'm
bit more
talking about
secretive,
UFOs.
which is
Well, yeah, that's another level.
Yeah.
That's
another
personal.
level. Yeah. So I mean, I could say, "Oh yeah, I'm a UFO researcher." Oh, but as I say,
Abduction.
I work with abductions. You know, some people they just glaze over.
Well, it is
You know,
much
they
quicker
just-
and easier for me, even personally, to dismiss a UFO. That could be a trick of the light.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a plane. That could be. There's so many things that could be. There's not a lot of things that could be of somebody showing up in your bedroom at 4 a.m. and taking you for a ride. I mean,
Right.
that's.
I mean, just imagine that. I mean, and it's happening, and it keeps happening. That's why I really have to start my training program. I mean, I tried to do this 2 years ago. You know, things happen when it's the right time. It's meant to happen. So, because I'm worried, because I think if I can't do
My
this
heart goes out to
anymore,
those folks.
Yeah.
you know, we need to have people that are trained in this and not leading people into believing that they've been abducted.
You're the one
you
to
know.
do it because you learned from these top guys that are gone. It's up to you for real. We need someone to train under you, Tony Sweet.
I'll do it.
We need to get somebody in the pipeline here because it really is a shame that there's not people out there prominently chasing this. What happens to all those case studies all these guys have? Do you have access to like Bud Hopkins stuff?
Bud, let me see. He gave those to David,
Right.
To David Jacobs. With David, he's not sure where he wants to have those go. He thought maybe a university.
I talked to him about it. Yeah, he said he doesn't know what to do or
doesn't
something like
know,
that. But
yeah.
I hate to think all that's gone.
See, it's
There's a
hard
lot of data.
because with Bud, there back then, my God, you know, people were writing letters in snail mail. So somebody would have to take off, delete or cut off the addresses and phone, you know, the names, and that's. You know, he's got
Time and money.
boxes and boxes.
Yeah.
With my cases, I've got them now on digital, and you can delete, you know, or black out the names or whatever. But when I started, I mean, we were just getting into the internet. We weren't doing email, and we weren't doing any of that. I mean, I would run down to the post office and mail about 40 meeting announcements for my support group. You know, I'd have to do it 2 weeks ahead of time. Now I press a button.
It's gone.
You know, it goes.
So that's
to,
another thing. You actually have a support group where people physically come, get in a circle, and they talk about their experience.
Yeah,
and
we
they all
just-
have the same shared experience-ish.
We just had one yesterday. Yeah.
fantastic.
We've been meeting. I founded Zero 27 years ago, and we meet every month. We have a location in Burbank, and then we have a location down in Orange County because there's so many
I would do
people.
that first thing. I think that would help tremendously.
It
Whitley
does.
did that immediately. I would do that because it would be like, well, wait a minute.
You're not alone. You're
Right.
talking to other like-minded people. You don't have to, you know, apologize. You know, this is going to sound crazy, or you know that everyone else has been in the same boat. We had about 3 new people yesterday come in.
That's great. Let's talk about this for a second. That group Free. What about how they're saying 75 to 80% of the abductees feel like it's a great experience? Do you find that?
I find that not a great experience, but like as I mentioned, when
Positive, excuse me. Positive experience. I would
once-
think it'd be horrifying.
what it is. That's why they come and seek help. But once the fear and anger, because they go through all the stages of grief, you know, anger and all of that, when any of us suffer a trauma, once the fear dissipates, and it dissipates after lots of regressions, you go into the support group, you know, then they tend to look at it, okay, this has happened to me. You know, they try to incorporate it into their lives. They feel it's made them a better person, a stronger person, some of more spiritual. But yet,
That's what he was mentioning, that they become more like a mediumship sometimes.
but yet they're not. It's still not. But you know, many of them will go. But I wish they would have asked me permission, you know, to take my blood or take my, you know, semen or whatever. And so, and I have people that have come in, new people that are in that terrible anger mode. You know,
Of course, people that come to you only come if they've had a negative experience.
oh
most
yeah, they're
likely.
not going to come
Right.
and seek out help. But you know, I feel that everyone who's had contact with at least the alien beings that I've been working with, I mean, that contact the people I work with, everyone has gone through the examinations. Everyone's had ova taken. Everyone has sperm taken. Everyone's being shown the children. I feel that these people have blocked it out, which is a defense mechanism if that's what helps them, and they want to look at it as totally positive. But I don't want them to discount the people that are still working through it, because it affects every aspect of your life.
It's amazing. Now, you have the same traditional beings with the small grays and
then
the
the taller
praying
ones
mantis in
and-
charge, that same thing.
Right.
Because a lot of the other things Tony and I keep hearing is that there's all these different kind of aliens.
Oh yes, I mean they're the tall white beings, very tall white beings. They're the of course the very human looking ones, which we now feel they're the perfected hybrids, where we used to call them the Nordics.
Right.
People come across them, and of course the praying mantis. They always seem to be in charge on the ship. I'm trying to think of the reptilians.
It's interesting that they're all together too, though.
I have had people say they're lying on the table and they will see different ones working together. Now, what's interesting is that I don't come across the reptilian beings as much as the other ones. I mean, they're there, but I haven't come across them as much as perhaps maybe another researcher has. I know because their theory is that there's reptilians on our government, and
Yeah,
all of
I mean,
that.
that's a
That goes
further
way,
step for me.
Yeah, that goes way beyond. But I mean, really, I think, my God, I wouldn't want to open my eyes and see a reptilian standing
Oh, I
over
know.
me.
The praying mantis
bad
would
enough to
freak
see
me
that.
out. Right.
It's amazing when the praying mantis, when people have described it, and there's been a couple of praying mantis in my yard, and I leaned down and I talked to it, and it turned its head. I mean, they look like what they're described as.
Now, did she just say she's talking to the praying mantis in her backyard?
Oh yeah, let's
not gonna say anything.
Let's try to beep that one out.
Yeah, right.
No, but I was so fascinated with that because here is a real creature, and here I get all these descriptions and drawings.
Looks
of
just
them.
like that, doesn't it?
Oh
Isn't
my
that
gosh,
amazing?
and they're very tall.
Very tall. If there was one that long, I would freak out.
If it said something to you, I'd be like,
Oh.
okay, I'm gone. I'm out.
If he did the head turn thing she's talking about.
But it looks like they can hear you, like they're listening to you.
Well, unfortunately, our time is almost up. But coming up in May and June, you're going to be at Contact in the Desert. And I know
Yes.
people that won't be able to get there. Luckily, they're tuning in today and seeing you here. But go out and get the book, Chosen. And
Thank you. Yes, it's available on Amazon. I will have my books at my table. I'm very excited about being at Contact in the Desert again. Now you've both. Are
We
gonna
will,
be
of
there.
course,
Gonna be
be
there.
there. Absolutely.
So we'll definitely
Wonderful.
Guess what?
stop by
Tony
and say-
forgot to run halfway through the show today.
We're going to finish with it.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just dawned on me when she said that.
Yeah, we can't forget George.
No.
Yeah, but so is there any other events coming up that people might be able to come see if they can't make it to Contact?
Contact in the Desert in May. Of course, I'm going to be in Roswell in July.
Great.
September.
We're talking about
you know,
possibly maybe taking a trip
It'd be
there.
great. Oh, it'd be great. I go every year, and then
Yeah.
if September will be the UFO Congress that I've been invited to.
Where's that at?
That's going to be in Phoenix, Arizona,
Oh, fun. I'll go to
and
that one too.
whatever comes in between.
That one
right.
we're already booked for, Tony, actually.
Which one?
UFO Congress.
Congress. Oh, wonderful.
Oh, there we go. Now I know.
I should fill him in on these things.
Well, we love having you here, especially having you in studio because, like you said, majority of the people are out of the country or on the other side of the country, so we get to actually see a lovely face in studio.
Well, this is nice. I
Well,
like
thank
being
you.
in studio. It reminds me of the old days.
I know, right? Well, come anytime.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Of course.
And please, you can see all of us at Contact in the Desert, May 31st through June 3rd. We're going to have a great time. If you can come join us, get your tickets now. I know they're selling out. Some of these workshops and lectures, they go quickly. And I know Eric Von Donigan and Giorgio Tsoukalos. And
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
You get a chance to talk to you
Right.
face to
face
face.
to face.
And I'm going to hypnose a whole room again.
Oh,
so.
there we go.
Really? Is that what you're doing?
Can we get him
Now
to cluck
listen.
like a chicken?
Yeah. Watch, she probably does all that nonsense once we fall asleep.
Right. So, All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. We really appreciate it. Truth be told, and please subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to our iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify podcast. Listen to us all there. And until then, we'll see you next time on Truth Be Told. Take care.
Join me, George Norrie, in Indian Wells, California, for the 7th Annual Contact in the Desert UFO Conference, May 31st to June 3rd. Contact in the Desert is an epic weekend of adventure filled with exciting explorations into ancient aliens, human origins, crop circles, UFO sightings, disclosure, and the newest evidence of ongoing contact. This amazing weekend offers over 50 lectures, 40 workshops, 8 exciting panels, special events, and a luncheon that I'm hosting. Contact in the Desert also features leading experts including Giorgio Tsoukalos, David Wilcock, Linda Moulton Howe, Michael Tellinger, Eric von Daniken, Doc Wallach, and many more important researchers and scientists in the field. Contact in the Desert is your place for inside information. Join us at thecontactinthedesert.com to get your tickets today. It's time to make contact. That's contactinthedesert.com. Don't miss it. Contactinthedesert.com.